Hello, YouTube. Christmas Eve 2024. It is high noon. It's a white Christmas where I am. There's snow outside. The workday is done. I just wanted to make a video, before I take a break for Christmas and I veg out. Just about a few things that got on my mind, a few things I wanted to share. I wanted to share jasonrathgaber.com and show you a little bit of work that I've done on my personal website over the last month, and segue right into SEO. I think just about a month ago, I decided to tune up jasonrathgaber.com. I was posting on LinkedIn. I was posting a link to one of my blogs and hadn't looked at jasonrathgaber.com in maybe 3 or 4 years. Once I decided to post a link to a blog post on LinkedIn. I have 750 contacts on LinkedIn. These are all my old colleagues, people I've gone to school with, people I've worked for, people that have worked for me. 750 real connections. And it just sort of focused the mind on jasonrathgaber.com. And just making sure that everything's working, making sure there's no broken links. And that sort of segued a little bit into SEO, right? And I wanted to talk a little bit about SEO on this episode. Some of the things I've learned, some of the tools I've used, SEO Checker, Google Search Console, and then just segue a little bit into where I'm going with, with the blog posts and what I'm going to be sort of focused on. I'm going to try and create a cadence, over the next few months during the winter, and just tune up the blog posts. And I got some idea for the blog, and how I can do the blog with AI. So first of all, let me just show you my website. This is just this is the template that I bought from Envato Market. By the way, there's going to be for all of this, everything I talk about, every time I mention a website, in the links in the links below, I'm going to post just a link to sort of the outline in the description. I'll show it right at the end. There'll be links to these tools that I mentioned. In Vato Market, I have no affiliate links, no affiliate program with, but it's just a site, a place where I've used a few times to buy templates and to avoid starting from scratch, right? So this website that has a beautiful picture of me, it's a template I bought. I remember when I bought this template, I didn't want to use WordPress, sort of big mistake. I highly recommend WordPress. WordPress is number one in SEO and in sort of website space. But sometimes, you might not want to do that. You might want to take control of the code. You might want to have raw HTML. This template is based on, I remember picking out, it was 10 years ago now. It uses things like, there's a lot of ums and ahs here. We could be losing people. Might have to edit this out very cleverly, but it used some interesting web technologies. Let's see. Anyway, very quickly, this website just shows, it's basically a V-card, basically just a personal brand, right? jasonrathgaber.com. If we click on some of these links here, we can see some interesting things. I often talk about how I work as a quant or a technologist in New York City. Actually, I don't talk about that too much on this channel. I don't want to mention, these are my past employers, okay? Not my current employer. So I've sort of been around, working as front office technologist for a number of firms in New York City, and different places, right? Actually, I've worked in Switzerland. I lived in Switzerland for 3 years, had the 3 best years of my life there. And I'm from Toronto. Look, some of these pictures are not working. This could be just a little bit better, but this is the type of thing I've tried to go through. And I might have deleted this picture by accident, but ultimately, a pictorial history of my CV, which is kind of interesting. Also have a portfolio page in here. I think, it's got links to some of the different websites that I've talked about. I sometimes talk about the TriFinder on my YouTube channel. I talk about the Mechanized, last couple of videos talked about mechanized.com, my AI created SaaS platform, something I plan to work on a little bit. Have some, my mother's website. This is my mother's art website. And sort of in the past, back when I started jasonrathgaber.com, I was into financial algo trading. So I have algos on here for Right Edge and for FX. These are things that I used to run live, and I used to blog about them, and I used to commit a lot of code to my GitHub for trading equities. The type of thing I'd like to talk about on this channel, actually, absolutely. So look, we've got some things that are important to me on this website. We've talked about, my resume, the different banks that I work at, some of my side project portfolio pages, a couple tabs here for, how to contact me and how to message me, right? I'm actually going to avoid clicking on these. I'm going to save it for next time. I clicked on contacts, and that was interesting. But I want to make some tune-ups there before I get to. But really what I've worked on for the last month or so, or maybe I should say 2 months, right? Recently changed jobs. And sort of while I was in between jobs, or when I 100% knew that I was changing, tried to work on this list of blog posts. I'm not a big blogger, okay? I am not a huge blogger. It takes a lot of time to sit down and write a blog, and it takes some mindfulness, and it takes some concentration, all of which are sort of in short supply when you've got different things going on, when you've got a family, when you've got a job, when you're sat in front of the PC just for a minute, and you've got coding to do. So, but recently sort of made some new blog posts just about personal branding, how to start a blog, how to scale your influence online, okay? I'm not going to click on these on this video, but this is the type of thing I'm just going to sort of segue into how I created these as I get to the end of the video. One thing I wanted to do was I wanted to touch base just a little bit on the SEO of this website. So I've got a tab up here for the SEO checker. On previous videos, I've talked about Keywords Anywhere. And Keywords Anywhere has a few different sort of plugins about how to for SEO type activities, right? For keywords, for checking your website, and for checking your website and checking the SEO of your website. And one of the key steps for SEO, right, is to run some of these scanners. On my TriFinder website, where it's WordPress, there's a lot of plugins that you can plug in. And people are using things like Yoast. People are using things like Rank Math. Actually, I prefer Rank Math just because the free version is cheap. And Rank Math, actually doing the SEO in WordPress on my triathlon website using the Rank Math. Rank Math actually helped me understand a few things about SEO and just sort of the repetition of it, going through each individual blog post. I'm making various changes to the titles, the length, the slugs, the keywords, right? Again and again. So one thing I just wanted to do, I thought I would do it on this page, is I've got, and there'll be a link below to SEO Checker, so you can get this if you want. I do not have an affiliate program with them. I'd like to. You put in your website, okay, jasonrathgaber.com. You click start crawling. So we're just going to crawl this thing, and it's going to come up with an SEO analysis of jasonrathgaber.com. So the point of this YouTube video, it wasn't to take you through jasonrathgaber.com, but it was to do the SEO, right? So this is pretty interesting, actually. It's nice and quick. jasonrathgaber.com, not a huge website. It doesn't take a long time to go through it. Gives me an SEO score, 72%, okay? Total crawled URLs. I've got 185 pages, I guess. Oh, 37 pages. Okay. I've got one broken link that I can't find. I'm going to show you a little bit more about that. But this sort of gives you an overview. You know, this actually ain't so bad. Don't forget, I've been working on jasonrathgaber.com for the last 2 months. I've actually only get started. I think my goal is to get the total SEO checker score up to 100%. Okay, why not? So what do we want to do? And it probably was about 65% when I started, and it's at 72 now. Okay, it's taken some time to start going through these, but what's sort of interesting is that you can click on each of these things. You can see actually I decided just to focus on page titles, right? Setting page title is sort of the number one thing in SEO. When you think about your typical file, right? Google apparently is no longer using the meta tags, right? Keyword tag, description tag. It is using things like the title and the H1 headings, right? So you can see in here that what this tool does is it checks every single page in my website and make sure that I have a title set, right? And make sure that I have an H1 heading set. And you can see that what's happening here is that Google considers the H1 heading tag to be, the most important part of your website, right? So if I was just to take a look at the code here and just give you a feel for, you might be using WordPress, you might be using a low code or a no code tool, right? Like Squarespace, WordPress. These are the types of things I'm expert in, but I wanted to do jasonrathgaber.com in raw HTML. I mean, that's the type of thing that we want to get to on this channel. I think that every YouTube video I upload going forward is going to have a bit of maybe high level about looking at a web page, a bit of a discussion about some type of aspect like SEO, but then we need to look at some code here, right? This is going to be a code. This is the actual source code of jasonrathgaber.com, believe it or not. Revolves around, this is just the index.html. Every time you go to jasonrathgaber.com, it goes to, it goes to one, if you know just the tiniest little bit about HTML is that every website has, even WordPress sites have an index.html saved at the root. And this is the page that is served when you go to that website. You can see that I have these other pages, resume.html, portfolio. These correspond to those buttons that you saw on the main thing. And then the blog posts are stored in here, okay? But just very quickly, index.html. This is a classic HTML file. I've cleaned this up just a little bit. You can see that we have meta tags, okay? Meta tags are sort of properly set, the name, the description, we have the title, right? And we have this Jason Rathgaber, financial analytics architect based in New York City. That's okay. I mean, these keywords, this is sort of an example actually of how, sort of maybe the type of mistake or how my own knowledge and education about just what the word keyword means, right? This is something to change. Whereas what I was doing in the past 5 years ago is stacking this page with all of these individual words, right? I think the new type of what a real keyword is a search term in Google, right? How to write a blog, how to get rich online, how to learn how to program Python, how to learn about. These are the types of things that's what a keyword really is. So this is sort of the old style, stacking your keywords with a whole bunch of terms that you hope might hit. And the new style of keywords, or the current style of keywords, is to have search terms from Google. Now we're going to talk a little bit in future, it just goes to show there's bazillions of things to talk about on, that we can sort of share, right? How to find keywords, how to check keywords, how to use keywords anywhere, how to use some reasonably priced tools. Okay, so I think I just wanted to highlight that Control F, I'm just going to search for H1. This is sort of the new style, right? How to build a digital presence in 2025. It's the type of thing I play around with, right? Take jasonrathgaber.com, the main HTML file, and play around with the keywords and play around with the H1 tag, okay, in the code. But this is what it looks like when you're developing a website in raw HTML code. I did not develop this. I purchased the code. I purchased the template on Envato Market. And then I just filled in my details. Even this takes a long time. There's no need to start a website from scratch these days. You want to buy a template on Envato Market, or you want to start with a WordPress and purchase a template. Use a free theme or use a paid theme, right? Tryfinder.com, for example, it uses a paid theme that we bought, and they produce updates and they update it on a regular basis. And WordPress turns out to be number one for personal blog posts. Okay, so although I'm showing you this raw source code, I recommend WordPress. Maybe in the future I will show you that. So that's what we're doing. So what I'm going to be doing over the next, as I have time, right? I've gone through initially and made sure that I've got a title set for every page. But I have some pages that are missing, are H1 tags unique? One of the things that can happen when you're copying pages, right? It's very common when you're developing that you'll take some code and you'll copy it. That if you're making blog posts, you'll take a blog post, use it as a template and copy it. You can accidentally copy the title and the H1 tag, right? Happens all the time. So sort of what this is saying is that I've got some pages here, okay, that have no H1 tag. The cardinal sin in SEO. So the number one sin is not having an H1 tag on your blog post, on your page. And I've only got 37% set. So I need to go through these pages and set the H1 tags. I need to tweak this. And I need to decide for each one of my blog posts what the H1 tag is going to be and what it's not. So it's kind of shocking that this is going on. These pages represent some of the algo trading that I used to do. This site and all my stuff used to be about sort of homegrown financial algo development. I now do less of that for various reasons, just because it's sort of not compatible with my job, right? I work in, it's not compatible with my job. It's the type of thing I'll expand on in the future. But ultimately, these pages I've got duplicate H1 tags. So I'm going to go through these. So this is pretty interesting. One of the things I spent most of my time on is if I just sort of go back to, how do I go back to the home here? Spent a lot of time on broken URLs. So actually I'm pretty happy with this, right? I would have said that the very first thing so what have I focused on so far? I've just focused on the titles. I'm going to work down here. I'm going to go through all of these. Are my URLs too short? These are the types of things that, you can read. The nice thing about this tool is you can sort of read why it's important, and you can sort of decide if that's important to you. It's a good idea to keep your URLs short and sweet. Why? Because a shorter URL is better, right? So what it's saying is that this URL is too long, right? But at the same time, we've got the keyword that I'm trying to optimize this page for, how to connect to Python Twitter API v2, right? So it's a little tricky. I might not want to change the name of that page, okay? But the SEO checker is telling me to. It's happy with all of these pages. It's not happy with this one. So do URLs have extensions? What the SEO checker is telling me is that I think it seems to be saying it's not necessary to have this extension. To keep your URLs clean by avoiding unnecessary. I'm surprised that these are unnecessary. Okay. So sort of interesting using, I think that's the key point here, which I'm going to make. If you made it this far in the video, the key point is that using these tools teaches you about SEO. I wouldn't have known that these are unnecessary, even just by reading about it or reading a blog post or watching a video, using the SEO checker, using the rank math, which I'm not going to show. These are, these have taught me what's up with SEO. So anyway, is HTML valid? We get down to the bottom, is my CSS valid? There is something wrong with the CSS that I've put in here. Is HTML valid? I need to figure out what's going on in here and search for our sitemap location set. One of the things I did was I used a plugin to create a sitemap. Right? There's a whole bunch of different things I could show on these videos, and it could actually go on and have hours of material. Anyway, that's it. That's the SEO checker. I might show this again, right? I wanted to show one more thing before I could, which is the Google Search Console, right? So Google Search Console, in case you don't know it, what you do is you set up your websites. These are my web properties that I've configured. My mother's art website, okay, my jasonrathgaber.com and my triathlon store. I don't have the mechanized.com set up in here just because it's just, why not? We haven't developed it, it used to be in here, but it's popped out. So anyway, the point is that we can go to jasonrathgaber.com. I think you've probably seen a lot of people do this. A lot of SEOs on, oh, I want to, I'm going to go like this and go 3 months. A lot of SEOs are focused on showing this for their various websites. It's a good flex to have if you have a lot. But, one of the things we see here is that as we, it shows jasonrathgaber.com. The nice thing here is that it's not, over the last 3 months, 153 impressions and 18 clicks. Okay. So this is actually incredibly low compared to what people normally are posting on YouTube and Twitter. I mean, I looked at one post or one screenshot of Google Search Console today, and 1 million impressions, right? 25,000 clicks over the last month. I mean, I would like to, what's my goal for these? Average click-through, average position 24, right? Most of the people that are posting on YouTube and Twitter are probably showing, much, much better stats than this, right? Basically we're at 1 a day, right? That's probably the average over the last 3 months, right? Someone is getting to my site via Google search, okay, once per day. I have people get to my site other ways, but Google search, that's what we're on about. And I think that, it started off with jasonrathgaber.com. Like I say, I posted a blog post. I wanted to fix the broken links. That caused me to go into the SEO checker. And then that caused me to take a look at my Google Search Console and see if there's anything happening. And, I'll tell you what I take from this is that it's not nothing. Okay? It's not nothing. And I think if it was absolute zero, like maybe it is I could click on my other sites and show them to you, but the traffic comes and goes. If it was absolute zero, I think I would have just chucked this all out and never looked at it. But one thing that intrigued me about this was to figure out, you know, okay, we've got some people finding my site. And this is the profound thing I wanted to share, is that there were some people sharing my site. And then I think that what I did was I was able to take a look at the top queries that people are searching for, right? To come to my site. And the number one query that people are searching for on Google is Twitter API v2. Python Twitter API, Python Twitter, Twitter API Python, Python Twitter API. Okay, so all these searches, right? You can see people are searching for this term, and some people search for my last name, the Rathgeber last name. Well, at least one person searched for it and got an impression. I'm a little surprised that my site doesn't rank higher for the word Rathgeber, but that's where it is. For some reason, my site is ranking for this coding term. Okay, and when I go back to my blog posts and I take a look at all my blog posts, you know, this is it. This is the post that has generated a little bit of interest. Okay, and I took a look at this post the other day. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's a guide to Python and Twitter. I wrote this a year ago. I seem to remember using AI to create this post. Okay, welcome to this exploration of Python's mighty power. It's a classic AI, over embellishment or over production. But I think the point here is that you can see how in the name of the file we have how to connect to Python. How to connect Python to Twitter API v2. You see how what we've put in the name of the file, this is sometimes called the slug, okay? It's each individual word. A keyword is this phrase, connect Python to Twitter API v2. And then when we go back to here, we've got Twitter API v2 Python. It's right in the name of the file, okay? And then if we were to go to the code, actually, let's do that. Let's go blog post, and we take a look at how to connect to... look, we've got the old style keywords here. Okay, so these are not helping. Apparently Google does not use the meta tags anyway, but they're garbage. They're the old style. They're a copy. I've copied this template. So we see that we've sort of got crap in our meta tags. Okay, this is crap. This is Jason Rathgeber, but Google doesn't use meta tags anymore. One of the things we know is there's no H1 tag in here, and that's because I just came up with this little thing to trying to structure my blog posts so that I've got the articles and the blog post is separate. Okay, this is just something. Anyway, so if we take a look at the article, right, and we search for, I'm going to search for the H1 tag in here. Holy cow! Look, I'm doing this without. Python and Twitter v2 API, a comprehensive guide. This is what needs to line up, right? We've got an H1 tag in here. We've got the name of the file, okay? And those have created just enough that people are searching for these terms, and they're getting served this page. Okay, so what I've decided to do, and what I've been working on for the last month, is I'm going to go through all of my blog posts and put them in that same format. So where in my code, you can see I sort of have some old articles where there's no slug. Article 004_IB, okay? I never put the I never put the keyword that the blog post is targeting in the extension of the file, and I need to put that into the H1 tag, and then I need to put that keyword into the images. Okay, and that is what SEO is. Okay, SEO in a simple sense is about making sure that for a particular keyword, which is a search phrase on Google, which is something that people on Google are actually searching for. That search phrase is called a keyword. Okay, a little confusing to me to this day, unfortunately. That keyword needs to go in the name of the file, sometimes called the slug. That keyword needs to go in the H1 tag, okay, and that keyword needs to go in the images. And then you've got a file, which is a blog post, which is ever so slightly optimized for SEO on Google, and people will find it. Okay, so I've got a website with the world's smallest amount of actual activity coming in from Google, but I've decided to show this early. I'm going to optimize all of these articles in the same way. One of the things I mentioned, it actually used AI to write that article. I do not have a lot of super amount of time to sit around writing articles. But one tool I found, and I'm just going to show it very quickly, is SEOwriting.ai. Okay. Once again, there's different tools that allow you to write articles via AI. You can go on, openai.com, and you can just go to ChatGPT and write your blog articles. You can go to Claude and create the blog articles. And I think I did that on a previous podcast. You don't need to use a tool like this. But I've sort of decided, I just wanted to show you one feature that I liked, is that in this tool, SEO Writing, you can do a one-click blog post. You type in your keyword, you type in your title, it will create the blog for you. There's different types. It's just a little easier, right? It's a little easier than maybe chatting. You can sort of, when you open up ChatGPT, you can sort of forget where you are. This helps remind you. There's some interesting settings in here. You can have different voices, right? So I could sort of have a voice, which is Jason's blog writing voice, right? And I could define a style. You can do this all with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is still writing the blogs. In fact, you can choose different models. You can choose different models from different providers. That's sort of the nice thing. You can use Llama, you can use Claude, you can use GPT-4o Mini, you can use, that's sort of a nice thing, right? It sits on top of the different LLMs. But the one important feature, and one thing is that this sort of makes some nice images, which are embedded in the blog post. I've never seen ChatGPT do that. I've never seen Claude do that. Okay, so I was just thinking that it made a blog post which I found really pretty. I'm going to show it to you in a second. Actually, just before I do, one of the nice things about this tool, the real deal breaker for me, is that I can see the blog posts that I've generated here. How to start a blog in 2025, personal branding, okay? And the nice thing is that I can click on the editor and broken. I can click here, yeah, and I can go edit, and it gives me a few simple stats, but the most impressive is that I can now go here and I can edit this, right? I can humanize this. I can add some of my, discover essential strategies to amplify your online influence. I can take that. Learner is the cornerstone. I might just decide that this word is just too over the top, right? And I can humanize this, right? I can go right into this web page and just start. I've got a place to edit the article and to humanize it and to change it. I found this a good looking article. I have to admit, it made this picture by by using the LLM, by using ChatGPT. It made this picture. That's a good one. It made one which I really didn't like. I'm actually looking at this and saying, hey, wait a second, I'd never seen this before. It made some, you know what, these photos, these images it came up with are not so bad. Not so bad. It was an attractive looking page that actually had some of the things that I wanted to say. Okay. Like I say, my plan, and so we go back now to my blog. We can just see the page here. Scale your influence. There's a picture of the image. I just had to upload it. Took some time. That took a little bit of time. That's the type of thing Google is not going to love in terms of its SEO. But you can see that the article is here. So okay, these pictures are here. And look, it's a good looking article. At the bottom, then I'm going to have this monetization or call to action strategy, where if people actually got to the bottom of these incredible articles, there's links to my Medium, my YouTube, X, places I would love to have more followers, right? My newsletter, and then ultimately some places to sort of, really monetize this. Maybe I should take Support Me, Buy a Coffee and put it into, have real monetizations, the affiliate programs I'm part of. Buy Me a Coffee. Why not? I've bought some people coffees, right? It would be great if we could get some people going to these articles and buying some coffees. So, and just having some money come in, right? That's sort of the goal for 2025. I've had the jasonrathgaber.com for a long time. What I want to do is I'm going to expand on some of these technical things, right? People search for this, how to, and I think that there must be slightly lower competition, given that it's got something to do with programming and technical aspects, right? People, I go back to these search terms that, people got to my site. These are the terms that people got to my site through. Twitter API, ZoroTrade, which is one of the algos, and then my last name. And I think the point here, as I wind up this video, the point here is to focus on what's working, right? So although you can see that this is sort of incredibly low, there's a disappointingly low amount of people actually go to jasonrathgaber.com, but that's true of my different social medias, right? I've only got 150 Twitter followers. I've only got 10 YouTube subscribers. I got 750 LinkedIn connections because I've been working for the past 20 years, right? And I've worked with all these people at all of these different banks in all of these different cities. We are where we are. I'm being honest about this. But what I find so interesting, and I think that the type of thing you hear from people who really know what they're doing is, focus on what's working, right? We're going to sit around, we're going to go through here and we're going to find what's working. We're going to expand on it. Okay. So ever just slightly, you can see that this back in 9/23, I hadn't looked at this website. When I think of what we're looking at here, 9/23, that was September, right? It was October. I hadn't looked at this website. I was not looking at it at all. Hadn't looked at it in a couple of years, but it sat there every day. I would say, the interesting thing I can't help but to say is I look at that. These impressions started to go up just last week, okay? We had actually a couple of days where the impressions were 6 and the impressions are 10. Is that actually increasing? That I don't know. I don't know. I wanted to show you one last thing. Pages. Yeah, I talked just a little bit about this. Why aren't your pages indexed? I think we've run out of time on this video, right? To go through some of these things. But the idea is that I'm fixing some of these things, right? Not found. Google doesn't like broken links, right? So what are we doing? We fixed all of the broken links. We made some very small changes. And as we make these changes that the SEO checker recommends, right, we're going to try and decrease the amount of issues. And you can see that what I did was it says started. I fixed all of these issues. Then I had to click a button in here to tell Google it's worth rechecking my site. They've not officially rechecked it, right? But at one stage there were 12 broken links. I remember showing that to you earlier. There's now only one broken link. I'm going to fix, this is my goal, folks. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to get all green check marks if I can, right? There's some things I might not want to change. I might not want to change the names of the articles. I've got a special structure where not every page is going to have an H1 heading. Some of the pages are technical pages. Some are coding. Some are the blog posts, right? So I need to be clever about that. It's going to feed through to Google. And then there's going to be less errors in here, and we're going to try and get we're going to change all of the pages so that they all have this format, which is targeting a keyword, and we're going to try and get some new queries in here, right? We're going to try and get some real engagement on the Twitter API stuff, and we're just going to try and get some new queries. We're going to try and get some new action from Google. This is just the site that is coming from Google, just the traffic that is coming from Google into my website. So listen, that's it, folks. I'm just going to show you one last thing. Link in description below is going to be to this page. Look, there's some stuff to fix in here. I'll be fixing it, but I'm going to create just a journal of this YouTube video, right? The links will be here by the time I post this video. They're not there right now. I'm going to put a summary of the video, all of the links, and I think that in terms of call to action, that's all I hope for this one. Click on the link, takes you to my blog, and then you're going to be able to see some information about what I spoke about, what I talked about, and you'll just be able to click on these links for free and explore those resources. So, folks, I hope this whole thing recorded felt like a long video for me. Thank you very much for being here.